Right, folks, back again. Um, After the last video, I've been asked to do another one. Seems like it went down well. So here I am back again. There's a few things I want to speak about this time around, slightly different from the last time. Try to keep it short this time. Not want to drag on too long. I just want to speak about the internal market, something that I'm pretty sure you will only have heard of right now. It's getting sneaked in under our noses right now. And the Better Together campaign that happened in 2014, the lies that they told, promises that they made, and also the Yes campaign and what their vision was for an independent Scotland. I want to talk about a few different things. Pensions, the currency, they were two of the sticking points which the Better Together campaign used, the British nationalists used to try and smear and intimidate and scare people into voting to remain in the United Kingdom for the stability that it offered, the security of the pound. Now the pound is on its arse, has been declining ever since Brexit was announced. We're just going into the biggest recession that Britain's ever known, and the pound will continue to dive and dive and dive. So that ties in nicely with the currency that I want to speak about, and also Brexit, which I'll have to speak about as well, and the pensions, which I'll have to speak about. So first one, let's start with the pensions. So they intimidated the older generation of Scots that their pensions wouldn't be safe, and that if they voted for an independent Scotland, they would lose some part of their pension. Now, you've got to look at the British pension. It's one of the worst and lowest in the devolved nations per how much money you pay in and how much money you get back. So you've got, for the start, you've got nothing to lose. The European Union, the OECD, the average for the European Union countries' pension, the Scottish National Party, who proposed the ideas for what an independent Scotland would look like, have recently passed that through their membership board, saying that an independent Scotland, the pension would rise to at least the average OECD average for the European Union. So that's almost a double in pension for most ordinary Scottish citizens. How they managed to convince the population that their pensions weren't going to be secure, I've no idea. But it worked. They've done a fantastic job on that, because we've seen that on the results of the vote. The majority of younger generation of Scottish people voted for independence, and the majority over 55s voted to remain in the United Kingdom. The next lie that they told us was the currency, that we said that the Scottish people wouldn't be able to use the pound. Well, the first thing we want to talk about is actually a Scottish person that made the pound. And it's as much our pound as it is anybody else in the United Kingdom. The report that we done for an independent Scotland said that we would use the pound, and it still remains to this point the same, that we will use the pound for at least a period of time. There'll be conditions put in place and trials put in place if we ever wish to move on to the pound, i.e. if we join the European Union. The other lie was they said, like the European Union will not let you back in, you'll not be able to join. We're a fully member of the European Union right now until the end of the transitional phase, and the European Union's already said Scotland would be welcomed in a fast-tracked approach. People say, if you join the European Union, you got to use the euro. No, it's not true. There's 8 different countries in the European Union that don't use the euro. Some have been in it for over 10 years, like Sweden. Scotland's got the choice to decide what it wants to do. If it wants to remain in a monetary union with England using the British pound, it wants to set up its own currency. It's already set up its own investment bank for this reason, so that we will be prepared for an independent Scotland. And all this stuff is happening right now. So the currency myth, Scotland will not have a currency to use. We can forget about that, so let's just discard that and get it away. The pension myth, we can discard that as well. Now we can start looking at the lies which they told us. There was a good number of them that they told us. Obviously, if we vote to have independence as a vote to leave the European Union, there was a lie. if we vote to have independence, that we would become bankrupt, was another lie. Apparently, the only sole income in the United Kingdom comes from England, and they rise, and the British nationalists jumped on it like wildfire. So, as I've said before, Scotland is a very rich country and has been held back by the rest of the United Kingdom for a long time. We got £64 billion raised in tax revenues a year, and we receive roughly half of that back. £35 billion comes back. So there's no reason why Scotland cannot financially survive like every single normal independent country in the world. You just got to look over the water to Ireland to know that. And the propaganda and the whole tactics of the British state for the last 150 years has been to drain other countries of their resources, to make themselves look like this big super duper empire. India was a good example of that. America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and they held Ireland down in the shadows for long enough. So there's no reason why countries like Malta and Singapore can become independent for the British state, but Scotland's the only one that's too poor, too wee, too stupid. We can see through the disguise. We know what the issue is, that Scotland's the guinea pig and it has the resources, and they don't want to let go of their resources, and they're gonna kick and scream and put up a fight till the very, very death. And this is what the internal market is. If I go on and speak about this briefly, it's getting passed through under your noses. There's a new house getting built or is built in Edinburgh with Union Jack windows, the Queen Elizabeth House. It's going to hold 3,000 British civil servants. And the internal market is a disguise and a silver lining for the United Kingdom, the Tory government, to decentralise the Scottish government, abolish Holyrood, and centralise all the powers back to London. And that's essentially what's happening right under your noses as part of this Brexit withdrawal. And the powers that are coming back to, or meant to be coming back to Scotland, which they're now stealing to London. And they're going to use this house as a way of trying to run Scotland for Edinburgh. So what we're saying there is that any power or anything that's granted in the Scottish Government, any decision that the Scottish Government make, they're going to overrule it. The UK is going to have sovereign control. Now, there's actually a court case going through right now, which you probably want to be aware of either, because I'm pretty sure the BBC will only be broadcasting it. It started off with one person who decided they were going to take the UK government to court because the Scottish people are sovereign, and that's been declared since the Declaration of Arbroath in 1320, when we won our independence in 1314, that the Scottish people are sovereign. We are above the government, and if the Scottish people decide to do anything, then they are in control of the country. That's very different to England, where the monarchy is in control essentially, but in Scotland the people are sovereign. And so the Tories, as we know, have been rejecting a Section 30 order. As I've said before, I have no idea why we're asking for this Section 30 order. It's a voluntary union between Scotland and England. We joined in 1707, and if one partner wants to leave the union, it can. The Scottish Government, in my opinion, are being too nice by asking for it, to try and have a fair, legally binding referendum. There's no need for us to have it. The referendum on the the European Union, was an advisory vote, and the UK government decided to act on that. We can hold an advisory vote on Scottish independence tomorrow if we want, but the SNP government, you could say, or the policies and the leadership have acted against it, and they want to try and make it as civil as possible. So the Section 30 order allows Scotland to have that legally binding referendum that we had in 2014. So we have a court case in place now, as the Tories are trying to pretty much overrule any decision that's made in Scotland, go against the Scotland Act 1998, and close down and abolish our Parliament. The reason they're doing this is because they're behind in the polls. They know they're never going to be able to squash the rise in Scottish independence. It's growing every single day that passes, and the only thing they can do to put us back in our box and hope that we shut up and go away is to abolish our government and take away our lasting existing rights as Scottish people, and try and make us a colony of England. So this he's went ahead with this court case. The Scottish Government have withdrew for the case, And it's now a direct fight between the Scottish people, you and me and everybody that lives in Scotland, against the Westminster government. Who decides what Scotland can do, whether they can have a referendum, what decisions they want to make for this country. And now we've got the court cases going ahead and will be trialled over the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's going to be interesting to see what happens for that decision. Now I just want to talk about a few other different things with the Better Together campaign, because we know there was loads of lies in there that managed to swing the vote. And when this vote comes around the next time, because it will come around very soon, Holyrood elections is May 2021, May the 6th, the Scottish National Party are polling 57%, which is the biggest ever vote share for any party in any UK election ever. So it's looking very likely that we're going to have another referendum. The chances of that not happening is either going to be because it's going to be a legal battle, or the Tories are going to have decentralised power to London by this point already and made us a colony of England, whatever the Scottish people decide they want to do. Back to the lies, the Tory party and the Labour Party, the Better Together campaign. And like I've said before, the demise of Labour is something that kind of saddened me at the beginning, but as they continue to tell lies and side hand in hand with the Tories, the red and the blue Tories, shouting insults to the sidelines, they're a non-entity in Scottish politics now. I mean, they've got nothing to offer the people. They're a British, English Labour Party. They're a puppet to London. And there's only 2 registered parties in Scotland right now which are actually interested in standing up for Scotland, and that's the Scottish National Party and the Scottish Greens Party. And the Holyrood elections in 2021, we're going to have an Independence for Scotland party as well, standing on the list vote. Now, it's up to you if you wanted to vote for them. I know a lot of people can't bring themselves to vote for the SNP for a few different reasons, and that's fair enough. If you're one of the people that find yourself in that position where you're a supporter of Scottish independence and you want Scotland to become an independent country, we don't necessarily agree with every decision and policy that the SNP make, that's fair enough. Maybe the Independence for Scotland party is for you. The other parties you got, well, you got the Conservative and Unionist Party, we all know what they're capable of, and we got the British Labour Party. And I say British Labour Party, there is no Scottish Labour Party, and they're just a branch office with a big Union Jack flag, very similar to the Conservative and Unionist Party. So mind and take that on board in the 2021 Holyrood elections when you come and you have your vote. The polls, 54%, the YouGov poll, 53%. Now you got to bear in mind that's a YouGovernment poll, that's the highest poll in favour of Scottish independence for a government poll. If they're showing that it's 53%, then we can add at least 5-6% onto that total straight away. So we're in a really strong position, and this is why the attacks and the smear tactics are happening, and we're going to continue to see it every single day in the newspapers. It's going to be hell for leather till the very end, right up until this vote. And you got Ruth the Moof Davidson back in control, and Holyrood standing in for the Tory linesman. So it's going to be a bit of a curtain fight in the Holyrood Parliament over the next few months in the build up to the election. And as we've seen, Boris is back in Scotland, and Rishi Sunak up in Scotland trying to beg us to stay as well. And I think the Scottish people, right in saying that we've seen through the lies of the Tory party. We either vote for an independent Scotland, or we follow the Tory party through this Brexit, the no-deal Brexit, which is going to destroy our economy. We're into the biggest recession that the United Kingdom's ever seen, and it's only going to get worse for there, ladies and gentlemen. It's literally going to get worse and worse and worse. We've got a lifeboat to get away from this mess, and we need to use it. And the current polling is showing that we're going to use it, and Scotland will become an independent country. And I want to just go through the positives of what will be an independent country for Scotland. Now, the main positive was we'll get a government we vote for. You know, that's the main thing. We'll actually get a government that we vote for every single time we vote for them. And it might not necessarily be the SNP. There'll be new parties forming an independent Scotland that will drive it through, and I'd like to see a good working class party take over the helm in an independent Scotland. Now, the positives in an independent Scotland, there's there's far too many for me to go through in this video alone. Like I say, we'll have a government we vote for. We'll have control of our monies and the levers to make the right choices for our citizens. I mean, even just look at the school teachers, the exam results just recently. The pass grades were up, but the people were getting judged on their location, and it was a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. And I'm not going to stand there and defend the SQA or the Scottish Government. People should never be getting voted down for what area they grew up in. Now, the Scottish Government stood up and said, look, we made a mistake here and we're going to fix it. And that takes a lot of the balls to actually do that. Anybody that's ever been in a leadership position or a management position like myself, to stand up, admit when you're wrong, accept it and make decisions and change it. And they've done that. And there's no way in hell you would see that for a Tory government. And we'll see this very shortly this week with the English exam results. They're going to have no appeal process and they're going to stick to their guns and they're not going to back down. And the SNP are actually winning votes off of that, surprisingly, because they see that a government is listening to the people. The people have spoken and the government's reacted. So that's something that you'd see in an independent Scotland, that a government actually listened to the wishes of the people of Scotland. The next thing is we're going to control our finances. We're going to have 100% control of all our finances. Our whisky, our oil, our renewables, our wind, our wave, our solar, all the resources rich country that we are, and our exports, which we export to England and to the European Union. They're going to be leaving for ports in Scotland and put on the expenditure reports and the balance sheets of Scotland. And obviously there will be a bit of set up in an independent Scotland. Nobody's telling you otherwise. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's not going to be the case either. There will be. But there's going to be a lot of positives to take for that. And we'll have our own naval force in Helensburgh, where the British bombs are currently stored, the warheads, which we'll be getting rid of. That's a current policy of the SNP, to get rid of Trident, the nuclear warheads, which cost Scotland £200 million a year, and a renewal cost of £200 billion. So that will be a massive saving. The House of Lords will go, which is £305 for Ruth the Moof Davidson, who won or lost the last 3 elections, to sit in a house, unelected redcoats. That will be getting scrapped as well. Scotland will have a vote to join the European Union. Whether it remains wishes to join the European Union or not, that's will be later to be decided. They might just join the single market and be part of the biggest trading bloc in the world. And so there'll be decisions for Scotland to make. But right now we're getting dragged along with the Brexit isolationist future. We never voted for a government, but we never voted for. And in an independent Scotland, we're going to have a government we vote for, and we're going to join the European Union or remain as a part of the Schengen Agreement or as an independent Scotland. And we're going to benefit massively for that position. Our resources and our oil and our wind and our water and our wave and our solar is not going to be stolen. The English will have to pay money to use their goods, and currently right now they take them for free. So that's going to be a bit of a shock to them that their big glorious empire is actually redundant on resources, and they're going to have to pay their way instead of stealing for countries like they've done throughout their history. The other benefits I want to speak about in an independent Scotland. Now, we know that we've got plenty of money there, we know that we've got plenty of resources there, and I can see that the cost of living will generally rise as the wages rise and potentially migration and inward investment into the economy comes in. You see right now what's happening in Ireland with the Brexit carry on. It's an absolute bloody mess, and all the investments going into Ireland, the big businesses are moving over there because they're part of the biggest trading bloc in the world. So in an independent Scotland, we're probably going to be replenished where businesses want to come and invest in Scotland as well. So it's a bright looking future for an independent Scotland, and we just need to get through the scare tactics, the stuff that they promised. They said the last time, the shipbuilding, which was a lie, and the promises of all the shipbuilding to Clyde, and they scrapped the ships and gave us half, and there'd be HMRC job losses, and there was HMRC job losses anyway. It was a lie. They continue to lie and lie and lie. the devolved powers was one of the biggest lies I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they promised Scotland, like, you're going to have 100% control of your country. You're going to be running your whole country. You'll still be part of the United Kingdom, but you'll be running your whole country. And the very next day, they stood up and said evil, which was English votes for English laws, and Scottish will not be voting on any English laws, and the English politicians will be voting on every single Scottish decision. So we're looking good, and